Welcome to a new video, and today I'm going to talk about the 28th-Freiwilligen-Grenadier-Division Wallonien. If you enjoy this series, please leave a like, and if you have any new ideas for videos, let me know in the comments down below. Before the outbreak of World War II, fascism was quite popular in Belgium, including the French-speaking region of Wallonia. Leon de Grelle, owner of a newspaper and before the war known as Ardent Catholic, has founded the Rexist Party in 1930. The Rexists watched the rise of Adolf Hitler's NSDAP in Germany through the 1930s and campaigned strongly for similar changes in their own country, some even striving for the establishment of an independent Walloon nation. When the Germans launched Valgelb in May 1940, the Belgian authorities placed de Grelle in custody to prevent him assisting the advancing enemy by raising dissent. Soon after Belgium's capitulation, de Grelle was released and he immediately set about the work of furthering Rexist Party's aims of the independent Walloon state. Despite his efforts, de Grelle Rexists were largely ignored by the Germans, who were focusing their efforts on rousing the Flemish to their cause. De Grelle, seeing that Germany was not interested in his Rexit, began using his excellent authority powers to gather a fighting force together for the expected crusade against Bolshevism. While de Grelle was in Paris campaigning for recognition of his party, the Germans ordered the formation of Wallonische Legion for service in the east. De Grelle rushed back to find that his pretensions of military leadership were not to be. Command of the legion was to go to Captain Commandant Georges Jacobs, a retired Belgian colonial officer. De Grelle's lack of military training meant that his request to be commissioned as an officer was denied, so he signed on as a private soldier. On the 8th of August 1941, the Legion, now 860 strong, was sent to Messeritz in East Prussia for basic training. In early October, the Legion was incorporated into the Heer as 373rd Wallonische Infanterie-Division. On the 15th of October, the battalion was ordered to the front to operate as part of Army Group South currently advancing through Ukraine. Upon its arrival to the front, the battalion was assigned to the rear area to participate in anti-partisan duties. At this stage, the German commander saw the undersized battalion as a political statement rather than a combat-worthy formation, and so were hesitant to commit it to a major action. After a brief stint serving under Panzergruppe 1, the battalion was attached to the 17th Armee. During this period, the Walloons were subject of ridicule by their German counterparts, and several complaints were filed with the OKW. The battalion suffered casualties during the winter of 1941 and 1942. The combination of this and the ridicule of the Walloons by the Germans meant that the battalion's morale plummeted. To make matters worse, on December 10th, all the battalion's heavy weapons were confiscated and distributed to other combat units. With the Walloons close to outright mutiny, the Germans appointed a new commander, Belgian staff officer Hauptmann B.E.M. Pierre Pauli, and attached a German liaison officer. Before these changes could take effect, the battalion was thrown into the line to halt the Soviet breakthrough on the Donets River. Fighting alongside the SS Germania regiment from the SS Division Viking, the Walloons defended the village of Gromafoya Balka from attacks by large enemy forces. After a second attack on February 28, 1942, they took most of the village. Pauli rallied his men in a fierce house-to-house fighting and recaptured the position. On March 2nd, the battalion was relieved. During this action, the Walloon had lost over a third of their strength but gained the respect of their Heer counterparts. The action at Gromafoya Balka had restored the battalion's morale, and soon after, Pauli was replaced by Hauptmann Georg Chekov, a former Imperial Russian naval officer who had emigrated to Belgium after the October Revolution. More recruits from the Rexists arrived to restore the strength of the battalion, and in May it was attached to the 97th Jägerdivision. Hauptmann Lucien Lippert replaced Chekov as the formation commander, and he proved popular with the men. During the reform of the battalion, de Grelle was finally commissioned as a lieutenant. During the Fallblau offensive into the Caucasus, the Walloons were positioned to guard the supply lines of the assault, seeing little action. In early August, the Walloons were called upon to clear a small village. During this battle, de Grelle was awarded the Iron Cross 2nd class. In late August, the battalion was pulled out of action and posted to flank security. During this time, it came into contact with Felix Steiner SS Division Viking. De Grelle and Steiner got along well, and de Grelle was impressed by the ethos of the waffen-SS. In December, de Grelle was ordered to Berlin to coordinate the formation of a 2nd Walloon battalion, but de Grelle had already decided to take his Walloons to the waffen-SS. In June 1943, after arranging the transfer with Heinrich Himmler, the battalion was transferred to SS Command. Around 1,600 volunteers who had been assembled in Messeritz to form the 2nd Battalion were also transferred to the SS training area at Wildflecken. Over the next few months, the army battalion was transformed into SS Volunteer-Sturmbrigade Wallonien, commanded by Oberst, now SS Sturmbannführer Lucien Lippert, with SS Hauptsturmführer Leon de Grelle as second in command. In October, the Wallonien was redesignated to the 5th SS Volunteer-Sturmbrigade Wallonien and was to be equipped as a fully motorized brigade with a complement of 250 vehicles. By November 1943, the Wallonien was deemed fit for combat and was sent to Ukraine to fight alongside the Viking, now designated 5th SS Panzer Division Viking. On December 24, 1943, the Soviets launched the Dnieper-Carpathian Offensive, an operation aimed at clearing the area west of the Dnieper of German forces. Involving 4 Ukrainian fronts and 1 Belarusian front, this operation would last until April 24, 1944. The Wallonian Viking, along with 11 other German divisions of the 1st Panzer Army in the 8th Army, were positioned in a salient based on the western bank of the river, and so were naturally the first target of the Soviet operations. Soviet forces occupied the strategically important forest near Taklino and threatened to cut off the communication lines between Smila and Cherkasy. After 3 failed assaults by Viking Germania and Norwa SS Panzergrenadier regiments, the Viking commander ordered the Wallonien into action. The day before the assault, skeptical Viking veterans posted signs around the assembly area. The Wallonia Circus, 3 shows tomorrow from 6 to 8 o'clock. In temperatures below freezing with 2 feet of snow on the ground, Wallonia attacked across an open field towards the forest, clearing the tree line and advancing into the forest, being halted just short of their objective. Realizing that enemy reinforcements were reacting quickly to any attack and stalling the Wallonian attacks, Lippert ordered a dozen 3-man machine gun teams to infiltrate the enemy lines and take up positions covering the route the Soviets used to bring up reinforcements. He then ordered the Wallonian to attack again. Over 700 Soviet log pits and bunkers were destroyed during this attack. Despite this victory, the Soviets soon encircled the force of the 42nd and 11th Army Corps near Korsun. While Wallonian and Viking were engaged defending the brunt of the Soviet attack, several Soviet tank formations had advanced alongside the side of the salient and succeeded in encircling the German forces. During the Battle of the Korsun-Cherkasy pocket, the Wallonian was given the task of defending against the Soviet attacks on the eastern side of the pocket. After the 105th Regiment of the 72nd Infantry Division became exhausted defending Navoya Buda from the Soviet attacks, the Wallonian was sent to relieve them. While General der Artillerie Wilhelm Stemmermann, the overall commander for the trapped forces, moved his forces to the west of the pocket in readiness for a breakout attempt, Wallonian and Viking were ordered to act as a rearguard. During the desperate fighting, Lippert was killed. De Grelle quickly took command of the brigade, and after repulsing all Soviet attempts to break through near the town of Navoya Buda, the Wallonian began withdrawing 1 platoon at a time under the cover of darkness. Advancing through Hell's Gate, the brigade came under heavy enemy fire with little or no cover. Of the brigade's 2,000 men, only 632 survived the carnage of the Korsun pocket. For his actions in the battle, De Grelle was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross and promoted to SS Sturmbannführer. A propaganda campaign was launched which successfully portrayed De Grelle as a hero to the pro-German Europeans. The gravity of the Korsun disaster was downplayed, and De Grelle took an active role in promoting the Wallonien, addressing 10,000 people at the Brussels Sports Stadium. When he was awarded the Knight's Cross in Berlin, Hitler said to him of the Korsun affair, "You had me worried." The veterans of the 6th SS-Freiwilligen-Sturmbrigade Langemark, the other Belgian SS formation, caustically remarked that they too had suffered at Korsun, but they had no De Grelle to make a fuss about. The wrecked remains of the Wallonien was sent back to Wildvlekken to be reformed. Large numbers of the new recruits were arriving, thanks to the propaganda campaign, which had been augmented by a widely attended march of the Wallonian survivors through Brussels. In June 1944, the battles around Narva, known as the Battle of the European SS, were beginning to go badly for the German Army Group North. A 440-man battalion of the Wallonia was sent to Estonia to assist the defense of the Tannenberg line. Operating under SS Obergruppenführer Felix Steiner's 3rd Germanic SS Panzer Corps, the battalion was thrown into the line near Dorpat, attempting to halt the Soviet breakthrough at Pskov. On the 10th of August, the battalion joined Kampfgruppe Wagner, and for 3 weeks fought against Soviet tank, infantry, artillery and air attacks. By the end of the month, only 200 men remained. After Operation Bagration, Army Group North began to fall back into the Courland pocket. During the retreat, the battalion escaped entrapment by leaving through the port of Tallinn at the Baltic Sea. During this period, the leader of the Panzerjäger platoon, SS Untersturmführer Leon Gillis, received the Knight's Cross for his actions in single-handedly destroying a number anywhere from 14 to 19 T-34s. In early August, the Grelle was flown out of the Courland pocket to receive oak leaves to his Knight's Cross for his actions during the Battle of Narva. The shattered remnants of the battalion were sent back to join the rest of the brigade, which was located at Breslau. As was the case with Langemark, and together with the Langemark, the Wallonian Sturmbrigade was upgraded to become the 28th SS-Volunteer-Grenadier-Division Wallonien in October 1944. Despite this upgrade in status, the actual strength of the Wallonian remained that of a reinforced brigade, around 8,000 men. The division was first sent to southern Hanover, then to Braunschweig to continue training. The new Wallon recruits were joined by Frenchmen from the Legion of the French Volunteers against Bolshevism and Spaniards of the Blue Division. Most of the new recruits lacked any military training, so only about 4,000 men were ready for action. These men were formed into a Kampfgruppe and sent to the region near Stargard and Stettin in Pomerania as part of Felix Steiner's 11th SS Panzer Army. The Wallonian was scheduled to take part in Operation Sonnenwende, a major offensive to relieve German troops encircled at Arnswalde. Wallonia was to operate in the area between Madussee and the Plönsee, Pomerania, covering the flank of the main attack. The offensive was launched on the 15th of February 1945 and was met with initial successes. However, after the 3rd SS Germanic Panzer Corps reached Arnswalde, the situation changed and the Soviet defense began to solidify. In heavy fighting, the Wallonia sustained as well as inflicted heavy losses and eventually began a fighting withdrawal. The Soviet counteroffensive, launched on the 1st of March, pushed the Wallonia back and over the next few weeks was in almost constant combat throughout central Pomerania until it reached the Oder near Stettin. Wallonia, fighting alongside the Langemark, managed to hold on a thin strip of land on the eastern bank of the Oder until it was forced back across the river in early April 1945. At this point, the Walloons held a council of war and released those volunteers who no longer wished to continue the hopeless fight. 23 officers and 625 men chose to remain. They assembled in one last battalion, plentiful equipped with machine guns, Panzerfaust, mortars and automatic rifles. At the end of March, a second battalion had been formed from men of artillery and engineer units who had come forward from the technical schools, but this formation appeared to have never been committed to a battle. The Langemark, who had also consolidated their remaining troops in 2 heavily armed battalions and 1 artillery section, was merged with the Wallonia under command of its tactical leader SS Sturmbannführer Franz Hellabout. Joining the French and Dutch-speaking Belgians was 1 German battalion and a section of tank destroyers. Langemark's SS Standartenführer Schellong commanded the artillery in 1 of the Flemish battalions. After the final Soviet offensive on the 20th of April 1945, the Belgians held as best as they could, but were soon swept aside by the advancing Soviets. After several unsuccessful counterattacks, the Belgian units realized it was all lost, and the Grelle ordered his troops to make it to Lubeck, where they eventually surrendered to British troops. The Grelle himself then drove with his bodyguard into Denmark. In a very risky action with the Heinkel HE-111 airplane, with very little fuel, the Grelle then flew from Norway to Spain, where he spent the rest of his life in exile. Belgium, in absentia, convicted him of treason and condemned him to death by firing squad. The Grelle died in Spain of natural causes in 1994. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.